And can I ask the Minister, and I know we've done this through parliamentary questions, and so is my colleague Pollack in relation to the designation and the reclassification of Magheroarty Pier in County Donegal as a landing port for UK registered vessels, similar to other piers and harbours across the county. This is something that would be transformative to the area, something that the local community and businesses are looking for now for a long time since the implication of Brexit, and it is absolutely necessary, particularly for younger fishermen who have used that pier forever, and now, because your insistence not to reclassify it, they are now discommoded of having to go to other piers, in some cases 3 hours of an additional journey on them.
Yeah, thanks, Deputy Doherty. As you know, last year I designated 3 new ports in Donegal, Bunagee, as well as Glengad and Mallinhead, and also then Dunmore East and County Waterford for landings from UK-registered Northern Ireland vessels, and also extended as well the opening hours in Greencastle, and that brings now the total number of ports designated for UK-registered Northern Ireland vessels to 11, of which 7 are located in County Donegal. Irish registered vessels are permitted, obviously, to land at Magheroarty Pier. However, there is no current plans to include Magheroarty Harbour as a designated port for UK registered Northern Ireland vessels, given the significant extension in the number of designated ports in recent years and the levels of commitments and resources required and available. And obviously, Deputy Doherty, as well, for a vessel to operate as a Northern Irish or as a UK registered vessel, the operators of the boat have to be based and addressed in Northern Ireland. That's one of the requirements for having a UK registered vessel, and that's why we did see prior to Brexit, and indeed still, some UK registered vessels in Donegal, in different parts of Donegal, due to the fact that pre-Brexit. Obviously, after that, UK registered vessels was much more difficult to land in without designation. I moved to facilitate that by designating 7 ports across Donegal. I did that based on what landings, where there were UK boats landing into those harbours previous to Brexit, and where there was an aspect of that. And obviously, even, for example, off North and Ishone, we have some boats which, because of the fact that post-Brexit, the 6 to 12 mile zone, Republic of Ireland registered vessels can't fish in the 6 to 12 mile zone now. That creates a Brexit impact, and it's some of the boats that would be fishing off in Ishone in particular, for example, would be fishing in that 6 to 12 and therefore needing that designation. But it was based, those designations were based on where UK registered vessels were landing into, and where there was a track record in relation to that. Obviously, it's something then that I've monitored and looked at very closely. I think the response I've put in place does accommodate those vessels that are there. But it is important then in terms of that where there's new vessels that they are ROI registered, but it's important we facilitate where there is a track record of it, those that were UK registered before, and I've moved to do that.
Minister, you know this case well because they've been in correspondence with yourself. You know that there is a vessel that has always gone into and out of Magheroarty. You know that they hold now a UK licence. You know that the infrastructure that they rely on is in Magheroarty, the sheds and all the rest. You know that the crew that is on that vessel is also from that area around Magheroarty, and you know that because you will not put pen to paper, that you're forcing them to travel an extra 3 hours by boat around to Burton Port. You talk about additional resources that are required. Let me tell you this, that vessel was boarded 3 times by the SFPA. There was absolutely nothing, Fisheries Protection Agency, there was absolutely nothing untoward with it. You know what times it was boarded by? It was boarded at the weekend, on a Sunday, on each occasion, 3 times between the hours of 5 AM and 9 AM. So there was no problem in terms of resources when the SFPA want to board a vessel where they found that there was nothing untoward in relation to the vessel. But in terms of somebody that's fishing off the coast of Scotland, wants to bring its product into West Donegal, into the Gaeltacht area, into the community where they're from, where they originally were born, you are actually preventing them from doing so. And it makes no sense whatsoever. In the week that Myrne Kavanagh, because you've refused to listen to her, the 14-year-old that you're preventing to fish Pollock by line from Ironmore, had to go to the European Strasbourg to raise her case because her own government doesn't listen to him. You need to listen to fishermen in my community, and you need to designate that pier.
Deputy Doherty, take your second point first of all. You talk a lot of hot air, You have no policy or no proposals, for example, in relation to young Moran Kavanagh and the issue in relation to the hook and line Pollock fishery. You don't understand what you're talking about here in terms of the wider policy environment. I've engaged with that young fisher lady. It's great to see her passion for it, but I've seen no proposals whatsoever from you except you trying to exploit the situation. You've come forward, you or your party have come forward with nothing. I've seen nothing from you in terms of what you're proposing there. You may go over and back and you may issue press releases, but it's vacuous in terms of what you're proposing, Deputy Doherty. And I look forward to seeing anything of substance from you in relation to that, or in relation to the Pollock fishery, because as you know it's closed on scientific advice to protect that fishery, to allow it time to restock, right around all the waters of Ireland, all the waters off the west coast of the UK, all the waters of north of Spain and France as well, for all pollock fishing, whether it's hook or line or whether it's by net. We had about 550 tonne of that last year. We have 70 tonne of it this year as a bycatch. I look forward to seeing anything of substance from you, but I wouldn't be holding my breath on it. But on the issue of the designation of UK ports, Deputy Doherty, it's something I've looked at very closely. It's something I continue to assess very closely in terms of any genuine need in that regard. And I've designated 7 ports across Donegal in order to reflect the need that has been identified.
Thank you, Minister.
Young Moran Kavanagh had showed you up for what you are. You're the person with hot hair. Tell the truth to this doll now. The only time you reached out to Moran Kavanagh was after she went on media, that very morning. That's the reality. Twice she wrote to you. A young 14-year-old fisherwoman from the Ironmore Island. She watches from her bedroom as the super tankers sweep up fishing at her, and you prevent her from fishing with a line. You will not carry out the reassessment we want in terms of the evidence in relation to the closure of that area. You won't allow for a heritage licence, something that your government has blocked legislation that we put forward. So let's call a spade a spade. You're the one that's blocking this. Now let's move to Magheroarty. There is only one thing stopping. You talk about need. The need is there. The boat is there, young fishermen are fishing from there, the infrastructure is there, and the only person who's standing in their way from landing in the community where they were born, raised and want to support is you, Minister. You're deciding not to put pen to paper and to designate that pier as a landing pier for UK registered vessels. And why? Because you say the resources is not there. That vessel will have to notify the SFPA when they're coming onto shore. It's not that they're going to be on shore every single day. It's the idea of them just travelling a couple of extra miles, but you've decided to put your face against it because you do not understand. And you don't understand what is happening in your own community. There is absolutely no reason for you to do it. As I said, the SFPA had no problem going to Magheroarty in the early hours of the morning on a Sunday on 3 occasions and boarding that vessel. But when that vessel wants to bring product and land it in Magheroarty, you're telling us as the Minister for Fisheries that the SFPA do not have the resources to make the journey to Magheroarty. That's hot air. I appeal to you on behalf of fishermen in my community to take out your pen, to sign the document, to reclassify Magheroarty as a designated pier that will support that community, that will support that vessel, and indeed could also support other jobs in that community as well.
Thank you. Minister, to reply.
I'll always tell the truth, Deputy Doherty. You're not telling the truth here in relation to the response I gave to young Moran Kavanagh, because I wrote her a handwritten letter explaining. No, before that, Deputy Doherty. Again, you're not telling the truth here. You might like to portray it as otherwise, but you're not telling the truth. I wrote her a handwritten note explaining the situation. Unfortunately, on that issue, as in many other issues in fisheries, Deputy Doherty, you and your party are an empty vessel. You have come forward with nothing of substance. All you try and do is exploit the situation and make it sound like you have something to offer when you have nothing to offer. As I say, I've seen no proposal whatsoever from you in relation to the Pollock fishery, in relation to the hook and line fishery for Pollock, anything other than look to exploit the situation. And that's unfortunately the reality we see with you on many issues, as in this one as well. In relation then to the designation of ports, I've explained the situation there. I've explained that I've designated 7 out of 11 or 7 out of the 11 nationally is in Donegal. To have a UK registered vessel, the vessel needs to be addressed and based, the owner of it and the operator of it in Northern Ireland. I believe in terms of the system I've put in place and the 7 ports I've designated in Donegal is meeting the needs that are there at the moment. We've put the resources in place for that. and responded very promptly, I might add, in relation to addressing the particular need there that Brexit has caused as a result of the new regulations that have come in place after that.
Thank you, Minister. Sorry, Deputy.
Minister, do not mislead the Dáil. Mern Cavan wrote to you in December, so don't try and spin a lie. She's a 14-year-old girl. She wrote to you a second time. The parents were going on radio and you sent a note with a handwritten note to her at that point in time. Don't try and mislead the Dáil. This is a young person who's standing up not only for her own rights, but fishing rights across the community, who's currently in Strasbourg because you're not doing your job.
You're out of order. Both of you, please. Next question. Moving on to the next question.